Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and after the very interesting discussion of the last couple of days about Shotzzy and his online performances being rather superior to what he has done so far on LAN, Rambo has made his thoughts clear on the situation, saying that it's not a Shotzzy thing, it's more the entire team not performing so well so far this season in the LAN situation. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Really does help out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. Firstly, I wanted to mention this because when Los Angeles Guerrillas won Major 2, the kind of warpath thing that they do, took a very long time to actually get that out there. It was like a 2-hour movie eventually once they did finally release it, but within just a couple of days of them of course winning the event this past weekend, they tweet this out: Resurgence is near, the newest episode of Eye of the Storm so far. So effectively a Vision-esque series, Process-esque series of that they've been doing the last few weeks, and now it's going to follow their championship victory. And I thought this is beautifully edited, and well, it makes me very excited actually for this to come out. And this is the thing, right? People talk about content and the importance of it, and teams need to put out more content, video series and stuff like that, just like this, or like what New York does, or like for example what Los Angeles Guerrillas do, or OpTic do, for example. But I feel like people don't care as much. Like, people are going to watch this way more than their previous episodes because they won this episode, right? People want to see the story behind a team winning, I would say, and once they do watch this episode, which they more than likely will because it's behind a victory, then, you know, they're going to become more fans of the players, fans of the team, and then follow their other episodes, their future episodes more closely, right? So that's kind of the thing from my perspective, is just like, look, you can make all the content you want, but if your team isn't winning, or people don't know that much about the personalities on the team, or if your team isn't named OpTic, then the content might not do so well, right? So that's the thing, like, people focus on content, but creating a winning team, I think, is kind of the fundamental start to actually making that content successful. We did speak in quite some detail about Modern Warfare 2 earlier today. This was also noticed, if you guys, well, remember this from the trailer, this looks very clearly to me to be worked from Call of Duty 4. This honestly was a terrible map. I doubt at all it's going to get played in competitive, but still, they are looking very much to bring back some old school maps, not just from Modern Warfare 2, as with High Rise, but also potentially from the original COD 4. So maybe some maps like, look, I would love to see Strike played in competitive. That's like one of my favorites Search and Destroy maps of all time. If they bring back some COD 4 maps as well, then that'd be good also. So we'll see what they actually decide to do, but probably a lot of throwback maps are coming to this new title, Modern Warfare 2. Gizmo, he's getting on the flight. He's ready to go to join London again, it seems, to try and take that team back in the right direction. Of course, they've been struggling as of late. We wanted to mention Boston Breach as well. No current rumours, at least as of recording, on potentially any roster changes with this team, but I'd be surprised, honestly, if they don't even look into it at the very least. But also some talk about, of course, their Challengers event, which is coming up very soon, July 8th through the 10th. So 1 week before the major begins, and I'm guessing this goes alongside the final week of the qualifiers for the actual proper CDL side. But yeah, the Challengers event is in session. So Clayster's team, Center's team, they're going to be there back in business. And he also mentions here in the reply, thanks to Cody for pointing this out, that an official Boston Breach Academy is coming soon. So Doug, of course, is their substitute right now. Who knows if he finds himself in the starting team? Unlikely, but maybe the team that he is currently forming will become the official Boston Breach Academy. Maybe not this season, maybe next season, but sooner rather than later. Apparently, this may well be the case indeed. This in Paul X thought was kind of funny. You guys might remember the tweet threads or the couple of tweets from Formal a little bit ago where he was like, woke up feeling great and then lost fully, tweeted that a few hours later. I forget exactly what it was, but yeah, Paul X coming with a similar energy right here. The confidence, he's back, he says, back in business, and then he says, not bad, just disappointed. So no idea whether this is even related to Call of Duty at all, but I do wonder what's going to be going on internally there with the Subliners camp, just because they might think, it depends on their mindset, right? If you're a Doug Since Martin type within that Subliners camp, you're thinking, okay, wow, this is this is a great opportunity. We're only on 70 points, everyone's counting us out of making the World Championship, we just need to win all our 5 qualifiers and win the major, and we're going to do it, right? And Doug would probably have that attitude. Now, whether internally in the team they think the same way, whether they're getting very frustrated about their situation, whether Crim hasn't tweeted in about 6 or 7 days at this point, which is certainly a rarity for him, so no idea what's going on there, but we'll find out more about the Subliners camp and their mindset over these coming days as well. Let's talk about the OpTic situation then. So of course, Illy's looking to get back in business very soon indeed. Rambo's made it clear the last few days that he believes Illy is pretty much a key part of their composure and keeping a level head in a LAN situation. Of course, a proven LAN champion, as of course is Shotzzy on his team as well, or at least on the OpTic team at the present time. Now, the big talking point in the last couple of days has been, is Shotzzy an onliner, effectively? Like, look, we know he's a world champion on Halo on LAN. He's also a world champion in Call of Duty Online. He won at the final LAN event of the Modern Warfare season, actually, before things went to online, and of course, he won Major 1 so far this year. But the stats look like this. We looked at them yesterday, we'll look at them slightly bigger here in a second. That online, Shotzzy's KD is remarkably different to in a LAN situation. Now, of course, Rambo, as the coach of the team, is not going to outright come out and say, yeah, Shotzzy's an onliner. This guy's just absolutely washed on LAN. He's just an online kid. That's why we're so much better online than we are on LAN. But in fairness, if you look at kind of the win-loss, pretty sure online this season they're 12-3. On LAN, they're like 11-6 or something, right? So on on LAN environments. And of course, on LAN, you generally, as the tournament progresses, you play better and better teams, whereas online, you just kind of tend to play randomly selected teams. So probably your online record is going to be better than LAN anyway, just because of the competition you're going to play if you get to, well, far advanced in a tournament. And while the numbers don't necessarily lie, it's always very difficult to, see the entire context behind something like this. So Rambo gives his perspective on the matter, saying like, look, it's not a Shotzzy thing, it's not the fact that he individually is just terrible online, even though maybe Akeson and Abel, as they discussed here, to have some sort of point where his kind of aggressive playstyle maybe doesn't work out quite so well on LAN, he can't get away with quite as much stuff as he does online, but it's mainly due to the fact that the team generally, in Rambo's perspective, just hasn't performed as well on LAN as they have done online so far this year.
Thoughts on Ake's comments about how Ant plays drastically better online? And dude, Pat says a lot of things. The stats might reflect that. I don't really think it's because of the online aspect. I think it's just as a team, we just haven't really played that well on LAN since Major 1. Like, we've had issues, like different rosters. I mean, it's easy to kind of look at those things, but just in general, like we have much better team orientation in terms of what we're trying to accomplish in matches. I mean, online and in scrims, we just haven't really showed that in our matches lately. Like, we had a good Friday. We won our 2 matches Friday pretty convincingly, and I felt like we were playing the game pretty well. Like it made me feel like Thursday was kind of a one-off day, but then Saturday we showed up and did the same exact thing. Just played the same way as we did. Like, first map looked pretty good. The first 3 quarters of the first map and the first 3 quarters of the search, we looked like us. We looked like convinced in our decision making. We were playing well. Like, we were doing what we talked about basically. Like, without going too in depth into it, like, we didn't try to reinvent the wheel, but then it just fell apart. It's like some people just fall off the rotation element of where we're trying to go on the map, and people are trying to do their own thing, and it just makes it really difficult for us to get in position to get kills. And when teams play well and have good map control, it's like, you're not safe, dude. Nobody's safe from that.
So what do you guys think about this perspective, right? I think there are some stats that kind of attest to what Rama has to say here in a second. The fact that when things go south for OpTic, it's not just Shotzzy that's kind of turning down the heat, but it's the rest of the guys as well, always, well, in certain situations at least. I mean, this is a pretty ridiculous clip that we saw a couple of days ago, but it still never ceases to amaze that he's doing stuff like this. Now, some of these plays that he makes, maybe he couldn't get away with on LAN, maybe because the gameplay is slightly slower, it doesn't work out quite so well for him in those situations. And I think there might be an element of truth to the whole situation, right? And it must be said that, yeah, when Shotzzy goes off, the team generally has, well, a very successful time indeed, which is why when he doesn't go off, things can get rather more challenging for the roster. But we did see that they're pretty much their whole system kind of broke down right against Los Angeles Thieves, as Rambo was saying, right? We're not playing the game the way that we expect to play the game. We're not playing the game the way we play it online, for example, and therefore that's translating over into poor performances from the team. If you're not well positioned, if the players aren't in the right place to get trades and the like, then no one's KD is going to be as good as it could have been otherwise. So I believe Rambo's perspective here seems to be that, like, it's not Shotzzy necessarily individually, but it's more that the team is just not putting themselves in great positions and not rotating well enough, getting caught out a lot of the time, not knowing positions of the enemies, and that's going to be hurting Shotzzy more on LAN than it is online so far, just because, I mean, maybe Shotzzy is the guy who gets implicated or gets affected by that most if the team isn't playing the way that they necessarily always, can do online. So, interesting one really, because I think OpTic so far this season, even they said after Major 1 that they won, they were like, look, we didn't really play at our potential here, we had more to give, and these last couple of tourneys obviously haven't gone their way either, and Rambo seems very frustrated about the way they played, for example, against Thieves after they went up 1-0, 4-1 in the Search and Destroy, and the way they played from then on outwards didn't help. I mean, it didn't help Shotzzy, right? His numbers after that kind of incident fell off quite significantly towards the end of the game, but as did Dashies, as did Scumps, and as did Prolutes, right? So you've got to think that it's not just a Shotzzy situation, but it could potentially be that the entire team is performing worse, and Shotzzy is the one who gets, keenly affected by that a little bit the most. So interesting discussion, I thought, really, but we did see this in the series against LA Thieves, right? The fact that game 1, we get, Shotzzy is pretty much even, Scumps a little bit positive, Dashy, Prolute, they're all positive as well, and this is the game 1, right? They're winning the game. They look like this map they were playing just like they do online a lot of the time, and then the game 2, it started off in a similar fashion as well. There's 4-1 advantage they had at this point or another, and of course all the players looking good, playing well. But after we saw, after that point, we saw that pretty much all the players, Shotzzy is 13 and 18, Scump had a really poor couple of maps by his standards, especially the way he was performing most of the tournaments, and Dashy's KD before this situation was 1.5 0.58, and then he had a 0.73 afterwards, right? And that's kind of when, you know, we saw the fact that their composure wasn't maybe where it should have been. If Ilya had been in the team, it might have been a different story. Might have wrestled them back to reality in a sense. But when they weren't playing their best squad, they were all struggling individually. When they were, then of course they were all looking pretty good individually, right? So maybe Shotzzy is kind of the first guy in, especially if there's no trade or there's no information or the comms aren't so great and like all these type of situations, then maybe he's the guy who gets it, well, suffers most from that situation, and that's why his KD looks a bit worse. But even if that is the case, it's far from an ideal scenario, right? You certainly don't want to be playing better online than you are on LAN, and that's something they've got to think about, right? Because at the end of the day, Shotzzy going off is a key win condition of this team, and if your playstyle on LAN isn't as good online, you can't translate what you're doing in practice into the LAN setting when the pressure is on, then that of course is a key issue for this team. And I feel like they rarely suffered with that at the start of stage 1, but now it certainly seems to have crept into their gameplay. Maybe the lack of Ilya is kind of, well, not exactly helping them in that regard, right? So we'll see how this progresses going forwards, but it's that whole translation from online to LAN, or translation as Los Angeles Thieves love to talk about, from scrims to actual matches, that have been affecting them so far, and maybe are starting to affect OpTic as well. That at least seems to be Rambo's perspective. Now, other teams, of course, aren't just going to sit there quietly and go into the night. Arcitys says progress. He reckons they're making some moves. Of course, like, they've been second every single major so far. No progress in terms of actual results across the majors, but I do think in terms of performances, they have been improving rather significantly. I do feel like just watching FaZe this past weekends was maybe the best Call of Duty that they've played so far this year. They looked scary. They looked like they were going to be difficult to stop. Seattle, though, have kind of formed their team with the intention to take down FaZe, as pretty much most teams did this past off-season, to, well, some degree of success, it seems, especially when FaZe get matched up against in the grand finals. But you've got to think, really, with 5 tournament winners so far this season of 5 tournaments, that are the 2 remaining ones at Major 4, and of course the World Championship itself, like, yeah, there's another winner potentially on the cards, and FaZe haven't been a winner of any of these tournaments yet, so surely FaZe get one, and if it's the World Championships again, that's going to be, of course, a big scalp for them to take, and they reckon they're making progress right now. Scary for the rest of the league. Wanted to mention this quickly as well. These are enables power rankings after, of course, Major 3. Thought these were rather interesting. I really do agree, I think, with the bottom of the list. I think that even some would argue that maybe LAG should be down here in the D tier, right? But I think really the D tier being Paris, the C tier being these 3, that's probably okay. And the B tier, I think, is pretty respectable as well. I think the Subliner still deserves to be here. They were very close indeed to beating Seattle Surge in Gunner Game 5 Round 11 in the winners Round 1. They, of course, lost a shocking series to London Royal Ravens, but I still think New York are a solid upper middle pack team. I think the rest of the B tier makes relatively good sense as well. The S and the A tier to me is kind of interesting. I think that Toronto definitely in the A tier makes sense, but you know, FaZe, OpTic in the S tier and then Seattle behind them seems rather strange. I feel like if FaZe deserve S tier, then probably Seattle deserve it as well. Of course, like, it is just one event, just one weekend, but yeah, at the same time, you've got to think that Seattle did beat FaZe twice this weekend, and in the grand finals, you know, 5-3, relatively convincingly in certain situations. OpTic have now had back-to-back top 6s, despite looking so good online. As Rambo's just said, they can't really translate that to LAN, right? So if you're looking online, like online, this is, you know, OpTic are definitely an S tier team, but on LAN, it hasn't really been the case so far, it must be said, right? So I think in terms of who's going to win Major 4, if I had to predict right now, OpTic to me probably aren't an S tier team, at least we're ProLeague in the squads. And then FaZe keep losing to everyone in grand finals, right? So it's a really interesting one. I think that actually easyMac from FaZe said a few weeks ago that he doesn't believe right now, at least a few weeks ago, that there's any S tier teams in the game. He would put everyone in A tier or below, which honestly might be reasonable, right? I wouldn't mind just keeping the S tier blank and just putting FaZe and OpTic down here in the A tier, with Seattle and Toronto kind of being the 4th best in the tier, and just leaving it like that, because that would kind of maybe sum up rather nicely how competitive and difficult to call this game is right now. And just to finish off with this, I thought it was rather nice here from Breaking Point. One iconic SMG has to go. Which one are you picking? To me, and as someone who didn't really play much Modern Warfare 2, the UMP would, you know, the UMP 45 would go to me. It's so many good memories of the MSMC, the ASM1 as well. Like, honestly, so many good memories of this gun, and the VMP as well. What a weapon this is, with even that kind of kill cams, what it used to get as well. So yeah, to me, the UMP is going, but yeah, you guys might disagree. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on a like button, tell us your YouTube gods, this is a good video, and I was like you should see it as well, and I hope grow the competitive Call of Duty community. And as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.